So hello again. I'll let our filmmakers introduce themselves as they take a seat.
Hi, I'm Stephen Piet, the director.
Hey, I'm Erik Crary, the producer. And we wrote it together.
So it takes a tribe and a village to make a film, so we always kind of start with any cast or crew in the audience you want to acknowledge.
Yes, there's a lot. There's Joe Rubin, Phil. If you've been involved, if you could raise your hand, that'd be great. Magnus, put your hand
Don't
up.
be shy. It's okay.
Gary is right here. Yeah, there's a lot of people that helped out a lot here.
Benji Williams, storyboard artist.
Yeah.
So for those of us in the audience and those watching, the reason we do these is to hear from filmmakers who've been there, done that, so it can inspire you to create your own work and you can learn a little bit about the process. And it always starts with story and script because you can't make a movie without that. So talk about maybe story first and how the idea came and then how to become script form.
So Erik and I worked at the same production company together, and we were both writing scripts individually. Mine was a little bit too big for our first feature. His was a little bit too experimental, too small. And we decided just to try and write something together, and the process was phenomenal. We just got along really well. We're best friends. And after that, we started talking about, okay, if we're going to make this feature, it's going to be our first feature, it's going to be a small film, and it's going to be mainly self-financed, so let's try to do something that we haven't seen before. And when we started talking, as far as the story goes, Erik lived in the town that's in the film Lodi. He grew up there, and if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of it was written to hometown advantage because, not too specific locations, but the things we knew existed and were probably gettable, and we played a lot into that. My dad ended up hooking up like the vast majority of the local. In the circumstance, like a lot of them are not interested in having any sort of film involved, other than my dad asking his high school buddy if we can shoot at his house, and somehow it worked out. So, we tried to play, knowing you're gonna have a small budget, you try to play to those advantages as much as you can. So.
And then as far as the story goes, Erik would take me around the town, and we were doing research for the film. We had a kind of an outline gathering together, and every house had like a very sweet story and a very dark story all at the same time. And we did a screening in Wisconsin. This is this Wisconsin Film Festival, and we sat in the back. And there's this scene where John is sifting through the ashes, and he finds a bone, and he takes it over, and he starts to crush it. And we're in the back just watching the crowd. And then I see this guy with his hunting hat, and he just goes like, okay, so we know what we're doing here. So that's kind of like what this. I mean, not everyone in Wisconsin is a murderer, but exactly. There's a darkness to small towns that and everyone knows your business, and there's a lot of gossip, and there's a lot of social currency. So all that kind of came into play when we're talking about story.
To clear, I think there's a darkness everywhere for sure, but there's in a small town you sort of know everybody, and because of that, the darkness tends to hang out a lot longer and be more known. So that's just kind of exploring that.
And it sounds like you knew the location, obviously, which was smart. You played to your strength, but then you let that location visually inform the story before you even got into the written form. Was that am I hearing that correctly? Yeah,
that's probably true. We would just go up there just to hang out, so we were definitely influenced by the environment when we started writing. And as and we live in Chicago, and our life is so different there. Our worries are like, oh, this coffee is just not just great. It's like it could be better. So that was a big thing, and it was a generational thing. We've never been drafted into a war. Our worries are pretty stupid in comparison. So that was a big thing for us too.
So once you kind of had the story and kind of that was percolating, how did you kind of go to the nitty-gritty of words on paper and kind of fleshing that out, and how was kind of your style of writing together? Because writing as partners is sometimes a little different.
Sure. Yeah, have figured out, for ourselves at least, sort of a good process, which is one of us will do a complete draft and then turn it over entirely to the other person, and they'll do a complete draft, and they have license to do whatever they want. And then after that, we get in a room and start debating. And then you start to ask, well, what's up with the scene? Like, why didn't you like it? And then you end up arguing to a better end, basically. If you get out-argued in that situation, it's not bad. It's because something else is working better.
And the story always wins out. Yeah. So, yeah, it's not about ego. We kind of just destroy each other's egos, and then it's all about the story.
Nice. And this was in the evenings, on weekends, not during work while
Yeah, we
we're
work.
recording.
I've had a full-time job for years, and Steven freelances full-time and sometimes more than full-time. So it's sort of whenever you can.
Time frame a little bit. Was how many drafts? How long did this process kind of take for you to get to a script you were ready to move forward with?
I would say we were pretty solid on a good draft over the course of maybe 8 or 9 months. And then we were getting close enough that in December of 2012, we felt good. Like, we're very close. Steven very smartly said we need to pick dates and start backtiming from that. And that's as far as advice I've ever heard, that's the best I've ever heard. So we picked August, which is purposefully 8 months down the road. And once you do that, you start everything. Decisions get very easy to make because it's coming up and you've committed, and that's it. So we finished up the draft and then began casting and the whole rest of it.
Nice. Well, perfect transition. Talk a little about casting. You obviously worked with a casting director. Was this a casting director that you knew beforehand? Was it a referral? Kind of talk a little bit about that.
So we had worked with them a couple of times just on commercial, thing, and we started trying to cast on our own, and we used central casting, and we Craigslist, and it was just a disaster. It was. We saw some people that were very good, but we hold performance is in the highest regard. It's the most important part of the film. So we ended up sending the script to, or Erik sent the script to David O'Connor, who was a big casting director in Chicago, and he loved it and gave us a great break, and just was able to, pretty much everyone that's in the film that wasn't the main actors was through David O'Connor and his agency. And we just brought them up from Chicago, the big theater community in Chicago, and a lot of them theater actors. And then for John, it was, they put on Beverly Hills Cop on streaming Netflix, and we were writing, and heard his voice and just watched him. He's so kind of salted to the earth kind of guy. And I was like, that guy would be good. And then, and then Erik did all the legwork and, got his info and sent it to him, and he loved it and decided to join. So we got lucky with that.
Talk a little bit about it, because the actor is a veteran actor. Yeah. It's not a star name like someone who's like, okay, we're going to have to throw him tons of money. But talk about that process of finding someone you're like, this is the person, of not quitting, getting until you get that person.
Yeah, we were very realistic about it, and we were very upfront about it. So we wrote a letter to John and a couple other people we were interested in. Ronnie was the same thing. Steven found Ronnie. We reached out to him directly. And basically the letter was, we have little to absolutely no money. If you like the script, we'd love to just talk to you about it. And tried not to put on any kind of bullshit airs about it. And it just gets to real conversation quicker. And John liked it. And we started talking on the phone, and we started Skyping, and then he's driving to Lodi to be in it. So it was unfolded that way.
And then as this process is going, what for you guys, how sometimes for the actors in the room, we see it from our point of view, but obviously we don't see the big picture where you see all the actors come in. So what made the actors that you chose kind of go like, this is the person? Was it something they did? Was it a visual thing? How did you guys know that this is the person we want for a certain role?
That's a really good question. I think sometimes it's just a taste and instinct and how two performers can interact with each other and off of each other. So honestly, it's a little bit just as the director and in the room. It's pretty much an instinctual thing, but I don't know. It's kind of a hard question to answer because I haven't really. It's not an intellectual process for me. It's more of just a feeling, that just feels right. So.
that you just answered the question, because that's I think that's perfect, because sometimes it's not 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2.
Yeah.
That's great. So then, as you're casting and as the pre-production is happening, let's talk a little about your department heads. Obviously, you guys are a small film, but obviously you need a DP and you need to crew out a little bit, and the DP helps with that. But talk about your go-to people and people you knew, people you found.
Yeah. And a few are here today. So Magnus, who I mentioned, has been just he's a very good friend of mine and has been there for us the whole time. He read the script and then just ideas about how to get it made. So he's been there the whole time. Gary is our EP. Cannot say enough good things about Gary, who came in. We were about 5 weeks out, and Gary came in with some support that allowed us to get onto an Alexa with lenses and 2 more crew members, it sort of changed the entire production for us. Steven was able to revise to that, and then we just ran with it. And then Joe Rubin came on he's a Columbia grad. He's very smart, and he came on as just to kind of help, and became absolutely indispensable, hooking up crew members, everything. And Joe just became, a huge part of the process. And then Phil is a friend of mine from when I lived out here, happened to be available, happened to get on a plane very early in the morning, and came out to help production supervise and took care of so much shit that it's that kind of thing. Thankfully, you find some friends that are willing to come out and support it, and that, we got lucky with that. So
Great. And then you get right up to production date, and you guys how far is Lodi from home base? It was Chicago. How far was Lodi from there?
Well, we took over my parents' house, so we had a home base in Lodi, and there's 2 hotels in Lodi, and we basically rented half of one entirely. So we did 10 days straight in Lodi, and then moved down to Chicago with most of the crew intact, but a little bit of a different crew down there, a little smaller, and did 6 days straight down there. So we had it was calculated as we could be to get this done, move down with whoever could join, and then get the rest. And we tried very carefully to keep camera, sound, and as much intact as possible, especially those 2 departments, just to make sure it's all consistent.
And in gearing up into production, did you do any Kickstarter? How did you kind of gear up some of the financing? Was it credit card? Kind of talk as much as you want about that.
We didn't do Kickstarter. We thought about it, but we said, if we need money for post-production, let's just save it. And then we work in advertising in Chicago. That's mainly what's out there in Chicago. It's not our favorite thing to do, honestly. It's a great...
Not the first person that said that.
That might be apparent in the film in spots.
It's a really great tool to use to sharpen your skills, but it's a little bit of a soul suck. And we would do a job, and then we would take some money from it, and we would put it in this kitty, and that would be, this is our movie. We would just going to the movie. So the jobs, it didn't become like, okay, so we made some money on this job, so now we can go to this car that is not going to mean anything to us. But it was just the jobs became exciting because it became okay. Now it's just more money into our kitty, and we can do our passion project that's going to be very fulfilling. So that was a big thing for us.
That's awesome. That's the first time that someone said something like that. That's cool. Can you about how long did it take you to save up to get enough for you to be able to make this film? I don't want you to tell your budget if you don't want to, but I'm curious just the vision of okay, we're going to save until we hit a certain goal, and how long did that take you?
I would say it took probably a couple of years. 2 or 3 years, and then we had enough to make the film on the barest budget, skeleton crew. I would be shooting probably, and with available cameras. So we knew we could make it, and that's when we knew we could set those dates because we could make it, at least make the film, and maybe not in the way that we wanted to, but we could make the film. And then Gary came on board, and then became an actual real film.
That's when we kept it very scalable on purpose. So in case we were able to find something, the first money goes to Alexa, lenses, DP, and we just played it out like that. So
great. Back into production in Lodi. How many different locations did you shoot within Lodi? Talk a little bit about that.
I want to say 6 or 7, probably, including my parents' kitchen, the local bakery. It was very much we were very careful to like go meet the people. The farm that we shot on, I happened to go to high school with the son. We had to meet the parents at like 5 a.m. before chores, where Steve and I are dragging ass to like get there, and they're like, "Hey, what's up?" And no problem. And I said, "Cool, I'll just keep in touch on email." And they're like, "Nope, no computer, no email." So it was very much like, "Okay, we will just foster this until we get closer to the dates, but we want to shoot these dates." It goes back to the dates, choosing of dates. And if you're asking favors, I think the big advice is just stick to those dates, because you're able to leverage a lot more if you're like true to those, for yourself and for the people you're asking favors of.
We saw the final product. Can you talk a little bit about the behind the scenes? There's things that got a little crazy. Rain stopped for 5 minutes to get a shot. That kind of things. Anything to give some context?
Yeah, it was a really good shoot. Honestly, it was. We did have a safety day, so we had 15 days on our schedule with a safety day in Lodi, and that was used. That was like a big thing to have, because there's a lot of coverage that I missed on days. There's scenes that I missed on some days, and we shot it in 16 days with 12-hour days because it was under SAG. So. So we needed that extra day, and that was a big thing. And we honestly lucked out with the weather. It rained one day, and it was in an interior, and it was about half the day. So we just, if it rained on another day, I don't know. We had one day where there was this lightning storm that was just circling us, and we were terrified because it was all exterior in the evening. And
Phil had 3 weather apps, I think, going to try and get it.
Did you guys? You talked a little about coverage on that safety day. Some filmmakers bring an editor on board to kind of like go, hey, it would be helpful if you shot this coverage or that. Did you do that, or was it just all kind of looking at the dailies, realizing, oh, I need to go get this?
I edited the film, so what helped a lot is that my buddy Benji from college, we storyboarded the whole film, and then from that storyboard we cut an animatic, and then because I had that, and I knew like what I could cut if I needed to, and what in the script was fat, we could just cut it now, and we could save a half hour, and we can just kind of move to the next scene. So that was very important as far as knowing what you needed and just moving as efficiently as possible.
So you talked about editing yourself. Talk a little bit about that post transition and all the factors that go into like color correcting and sound and all that stuff. Was it all connections through you guys' work that you knew people? Was it just that you as an editor knew people? Kind of talk about the process of that post-production.
Yeah, so I started as an editor, and then became a director in this production company, and I just got really tired of doing commercial work. And I in film school I studied really writing and directing, and I said, can I be the in-house DP? So when I went freelance, that's really where I got my jobs, was editing and being a DP. So I love editing. It's okay on commercials. I absolutely love it with the film. It was an amazing experience. It was fun. It's like you have these. It's weird because you're in a room alone and you have these like crazy highs when it's like working, and you're like, oh man, this is like working. And in my first cut of the cutback from Danny with the gun and Ben being in the house it's so indulgent. It was it's kind of indulgent now, but it was really indulgent. And Erik saw it and he's like, yeah, just cut back a little bit, like you might be going a little far.
It went a few more rounds.
Yeah.
That's interesting because sometimes being the same person as director and editor, sometimes that's to separate yourself. Was that difficult for you to go, okay, I need to step back and really kind of get another eye on this?
Yeah,
kind of
that was super helpful. Also, I'm just a really critical person, especially with my own stuff. So we watched the first cut, and I was just like hanging my head, and I was like, "This is not working," It was like, and he kept telling me like, "We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out." And it's like a lot of people have that reaction with their first cut too, and you start to hone it, and it's the exact opposite. It's a similar process to writing, but it's kind of the exact opposite. And it's like writing, you have this blank canvas, and you're just kind of painting on it and making something out of nothing. And then editing, you just have this big mold, and you're just sculpting and trying to like figure out what that piece is. So.
And then did you guys have to raise a little money for post-production? Was post-production covered within the initial budget? Talk a little bit.
We continued to ourselves put some money in. Thankfully, Gary has also continued to support us. It's all to a good end. You know, as it started, we got into South by Southwest, which is gigantic. We're absolutely, you know, beyond excited about that. But that costs money. And then as it's getting further down the line, there's more music licensing and whatnot. So we've kept it at an absolute minimum as possible. But yeah, we never fundraised. We've just worked some more freelance jobs and asked some more favors of Gary, and we're done now, I think. I shouldn't say that, but I think we're done now, and hopefully, you know.
Talk a little bit about that film festival process. Obviously, it sounded like there was a couple film festivals you were surprised to get into, hopeful, but that cost, you know, initial extra money and stuff. What was that process like for you? What did you learn through it? Obviously, it's being your first film.
The price doesn't matter. It's so stressful trying to figure out, you know, you're just waiting for a long time. So we asked advice of some friends that have had films in it, and, you know, sort of gathering as much intel as we could, but there's nothing you can do. You're just sort of waiting. And then when you get an initial email of like a positive response, it's not an official in, but like we're thinking about it, it's just like, holy shit, man, this is gonna kill me. But when you get the email and it starts rolling, it's gotten really fun, fortunately, for this film. I know that's not always the case, so we just feel very fortunate to have had the chance to go there. And South by Southwest, I don't think either of us can say enough good stuff about it. It's like an amazing festival, you know?
Talk a little bit about the process, because that's when you start to hear from audiences, you start getting questions, you start getting reactions. Was there things that you expected, didn't expect? You're like, oh my gosh, we didn't, you know, they got this out of it, and we were thinking this.
I mean, it's been actually really fun. I mean, the movie has a lot of possibilities. It is open-ended, and the idea behind that is that, you know, in a small town, there's a lot of gossip, and you get to know someone, and you have an idea of someone, and if something happens, you can hear gossip, and that can persuade you, or it cannot persuade you, depending on how you feel about that person. And so that whole part of it has been really fun, especially for this film, because everyone has a theory. Everyone is, you know, very sure of their theory, and it's just been fun to just have a discussion about it. And that was part of the what we wanted to do with the film. So.
And I know Steven's family's had like a little internal strife about conflicting theories. So it's been actually really fun. Not answering anything definitively. So
you and Lost should get together and have a conversation. Good. Couple more questions before we wrap up. Talk a little bit about distribution. I know you can't talk about everything, but just mainly from the idea of, for the first-time filmmakers out there, what do they need to know about it? Because it's this thing that you really don't know until you're in it a lot of times.
Yeah, this is another thing. Magnus, we talked with him a lot about, and we ended up going, you know, there's like, do you get a sales agent? Do you not? All that stuff. And we just started trying to meet with sales agents, and we found a guy named Bill Strauss that we really liked a lot, and we said, let's do this, and I'm glad we did. We had a really good experience. He did a lot of work to get the film seen. Fortunately we had, you know, a handful of companies interested, and we were able to sort of like find a good fit, and we'll have news. We can't really talk about it now, but like by the end of summer we'll have news about distribution. And yeah, I mean, it's a very difficult thing, and it's another thing we feel fortunate to have sort of found a way to navigate through with some help and find a home for it. So
great. We always like to wrap up kind of like last bits of advice for the first time. Maybe it's a first-time filmmaker out there that's shooting their first feature or interested about it. So talk advice about writing, advice about producing, advice about directing. Kind of like, okay, if we've done it, now don't forget this.
I mean, I would say if you need to be extremely passionate about whatever you're doing, because it's so hard, but it's absolutely unbelievably rewarding, and you just have to just keep on pressing on. And it's, I mean, everyone has to compromise, and you have to know that that's just part of the game, and you're gonna have to problem solve. And picking dates is a huge thing, and I think we would do that again because you can always push into, it's not perfect. Let's just we'll keep on working on the script. We'll keep on figuring, and you can always do that. And I think if you just need to get your hands dirty, and it's such a great learning experience. And even if the first film or second film isn't successful, you're getting better as a filmmaker. So just keep on making stuff.
I think, similar to that, there's sort of two things. I haven't found anything better than Mark Duplass gave this keynote at South by Southwest that everybody should watch a couple of times. It's just very straightforward and sobering about how to get started. And I can't say anything more than that as far as that stuff. And then he covers it in there, but I think working with people that you like and trying to keep, Steven did a great job of keeping morale up. I was freaking out more than Steven was, but yeah, I mean, you're out there trying to make something and like everyone's trying to help and just know it for what it is and like keep it rolling. It's not, you're making a film. You're lucky to be there in the first place. So just kind of embrace that and keep going. So.
I think that's a great place to end. Let's give them a hand, say thank you. Thanks for coming out, guys. Don't forget the surveys. Volunteers can collect them. They'll be around to say hi and everything if you have another question. Thanks again, guys.